Hey guys, Mrs. Daniel here. Hello. I'm not quite sure what to do with myself when I'm not teaching. I have extra time on my hands, I guess you could say. It's awkward sitting in front of a computer all day and waiting for people to check in, and only one or two people check in. But that's all right. I hope you're doing well. If you need a little help solving equations, I'm putting together this video for you. These are questions off of your practice assignments that could be helpful, maybe to follow my steps, and that would guide you through the rest of the problems. I'm going to start on this side. This is the one on adding and subtracting one-step equations. I just want to recognize it's okay if it's challenging for you. Like, it's okay to say, Mom and Dad, this is kind of hard for me. I'm not sure what I'm doing. This is one of the first parts of algebra. It's pre-algebra, and you're learning it in 6th grade, and you're really going to use it in high school. So yes, you're going to struggle in the beginning. You're just going to have to get over it. You're going to have to keep practicing. So here we go. This first problem. You have a -3 added to some number y that I don't know is going to be a -5. Okay, so when I solve these problems, there's two ways to do it. You can do an algebraic method, or you can do the flow chart that has the pretty circles. In the end, they're both actually the same. And myself, Ms. Cortez, Ms. Leal, all of us, Mr. Lugo, none of us care which way you choose to work it. Today, I'm going to choose to work this one with the algebraic method, maybe just because I'm more comfortable with it, okay? So in the algebraic method, I put an arrow here, and that's like my balance scale. That's the way I was taught, and that whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So you have to be real cautious. One side, do it to the other, okay? So my goal here is to isolate this variable. Isolate is like a super fancy word for meaning it needs to be by itself. Nothing else can be on that side. Okay, and the reason I highlighted this plus sign is just because that means it's a positive y, and it actually makes the problem a little bit easier. So that's a nice thing. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to get rid of this -3. Okay, what might make this problem easier for you to understand is if I do a little trick in the beginning, and the trick in the beginning is just to simply switch the places of these two guys, but I have to do it mathematically. So I have to say that this is a positive y, take away 3 equals -5. Okay, so that this right here, this -3, it really becomes a -3. Okay, now I think the problem's a little bit easier to understand. I've got to get this isolated y. It's not isolated yet, by the way. I need to isolate it, I should say. I got to isolate it by getting rid of a -3. Well, if you look at your notes and you kind of go back way back into class, and you think, how did you get rid of a -3? Well, to get rid of subtraction, you've got to make it into 0. 0 is nothing, and you can throw it away, okay? So to get this -3 to 0, you have to add 3. This is called using the inverse operations. The opposite of subtraction, or the inverse of subtraction, is addition, okay? Now, when I add 3 here at the beginning, remember I said it was like a balance. You have to do the same operation over here, okay? So they have to look the same here and here. Now, on this side, I still have this y. It's a positive y, and I've learned that I don't always have to put the positive sign, so I'm not going to do it. I also know that if I combine a -3 and a +3 together, combine them, like go to war, integer war, that -3 and +3 are going to kill each other out, and there's going to be a 0, so it's gone. Okay, and then over here, I really have to pay attention to my integer war because I'm going to have 5 of these negative guys. Okay, and I'm going to have 3 of these positive guys. Well, if you can see, they're going to go to war, okay? And this guy's going to die out, this guy's going to die out, and this guy's going to die out. And by die out, I just really mean 0 pairs. So now you're only going to be left with these 2 right here, and they belong to the negative world. So this is going to be equals -2. So the answer to this question is y equals -2. Okay, and I can check this problem if I want to. And the way I would check it is I would take my answer, that -2, and I would put it right here on top of that y. And I would ask myself, is it true that when you take -3 and you add it to a -2, would you get a -5? So -3, 1, 2, 3, added to a -2, would it be -5? And the answer is yes. These guys are all on the same team. They're the same color. Nobody's going to die out and make a 0 pair. So together I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all negatives. So this problem checks. Okay, let's look at the other side. The other side is multiplication and division. And the problem I selected to work for you is a division problem because just by nature, people tend to think that the division problems are more difficult, and they're really not, but I understand why you would think that because you see division, you see a fraction, and you freak out. So here we go. First of all, again, I want to isolate my variable, and that's that W. Isolation just means I need to get it by itself, okay? Like if you get in trouble and you get sent to your room, basically your mom and your dad or your grandma, they are isolating you. They're getting you away from everybody else. Sometimes that's good because we all need a time to cool off. But here we're just going to isolate this Y, this W. And what's happening to this W is division. It says W divided by 8. So we have to think, what is the inverse operation of division? Okay. Now, I'm going to pull some fancy tricks on you. Do you see that negative right there that's in the middle? I'm going to erase it, and I know that I can move it anywhere I want. I can move it to the numerator, or I can move it to the denominator, but I cannot, not put it in both places. So I have chosen to put it in the denominator because it's going to make my problem easier. So that right there, I just moved it to the 8 and assigned it to the 8. And you are mathematically allowed to do that. So the inverse of division, well, the opposite of division or inverse is multiplication. So I have to multiply by a -8. And again, whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do to the other side of the equal sign. Notice that the numbers I've chosen to multiply match the number that I had originally divided by. That is key. That has to happen. Okay. One thing that we should have been learning in class, and again, it's one of those things that you have to practice to fully get there, is that I can take any numerator with any denominator and I can cross cancel them, because what really happens is I get a -8 divided by itself. So anything divided by itself, or -8 divided by a -8, is going to be equivalent to 1. So you end up with W times 1. Well, anything times 1 is itself. So this is going to be W. So I have isolated the variable, which is what I wanted. So over here in the multiplication and division side, you're trying to get 1s, okay? And on the addition and subtraction side, you're trying to get 0. All right, so I took care of the right side. I isolated my W. So now I have to come over here and I have to do a multiplication problem. I have to consider my integers. A negative times a positive is a negative. And 7 times 8 is 56. And there's my answer. If you forget your 7 times 8 problem equals 56, a little reminder is if you count 5, 6, 7, 8, like that, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can do 7 times 8 equals 56. That's the way I always remember it. So just a hint. So I'm looking at W is -56. If I wanted to check it, I would simply take my 56, and I'm so sorry, it's a -56 right here. And I'm going to put that -56 here. I have learned that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so my answer is going to be positive. And 56, using my fact family, divided by 8 happens to be 7, which is right there. And my answer checks out. So I hope those help you. Feel free to stop them, rewind them, watch them again, and always feel free to text me using Google Hangouts.